What is up, guys? How are you all doing? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. And what we have here, we have a quick video on talking about one thing and one thing only, and that is Black Ops 3. There are many reviews out there, and I'm going to give my 2 cents into this whole matter and just tell you the good things and the bad things that I came across while playing the game. Now, I only played for about 6 hours altogether, which isn't a great deal, so don't take this as a complete review. This is my kind of comprehensive understanding of it from the scope within 6 hours. I mean, when you play a game for 6 hours, it's not that long, so I can't really make my mind up about the game entirely, but I can make my mind up about what I've seen so far. So basically, take this review with a grain of salt and do your research before you decide to buy it or whether you decide not to buy it. Just make sure that you're aware of all the pros and cons, varying opinions, and of course, look at what you want and what you like and what you dislike and make up your own mind as well. But anyways, let's get into it with the good stuff. Now, the game looks fantastic. It's one of the best looking games in a long time, and Black Ops 2 looked good. This looks even better, and I'm glad because they finally moved away from old gen consoles and started making Call of Duty for the new gen, which is why the gameplay is better, the visuals and aesthetics are better, and basically the game looks beautiful. The maps themselves, fantastic. So everything in terms of visuals is just ace. And going back to the maps, the layout and the design of the maps is great. It's kind of like going back to an old school Call of Duty 4-esque map flow, because the maps do flow very well. There are many routes you can take, and the maps aren't really cluttered and clustered that much, so you feel as though there's room to breathe, and that's great because the previous Call of Duty maps, it's been very kind of dense, very cluttered. You don't know what's where, you can't see anything, it just looked like a mess. But these maps, they look great. Each one has its own theme as usual, and they look fantastic and they play very well. Movement. Now, movement is very important. With Advanced Warfare, you were all over the place. You were just zooming up, right, left, down, center, everywhere. It was just like chasing Sonic or something. It was ridiculous because you couldn't shoot anything. It was just whoever pressed the dash button first and whoever hip fired first. That's what Advanced Warfare was about, and it was a shit game. But Black Ops 3, on the other hand, has finally reduced the movement speed of the exosuits. I mean, personally, I think they should take exosuits out the game completely. It ruins the flow and the momentum. It kind of whiz-fest, people just flying around and all this futuristic nonsense. I'm not really a huge fan. I prefer old school shooters like World War I and World War II shooters and Vietnam shooters, or at the very least modern shooters, not futuristic stuff. But everyone's taste is different, and that's okay. But in terms of Black Ops 3, they haven't nailed the movement. I think there still needs to be more reduction made in terms of the speed when you dash and when you fly and when you wall run and stuff like that. However, it's definitely a huge improvement, a step in the right direction from Advanced Warfare, and that's probably the main point I can make about this game. The movement speed is much better. The game overall, in terms of the gameplay, is 1,000 times better than Advanced Warfare, especially Ghosts. I mean, Ghosts was just a travesty. It was one of the worst Call of Duty games ever made in history. Advanced Warfare was very shit, and Black Ops 3 finally is bringing it back to a much better state. So hopefully the next Call of Duty game, even though it's going to be made by a different developer, would be a step in the right direction. They do what Treyarch did. I don't know if it's going to be made by Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer or whatever, but I hope that they take the same route Treyarch did and they try to reduce all of these extra elements and balance the game correctly. Because with Advanced Warfare, I felt as though they just threw in this exosuit ability and said, you know, fuck it, let's just go with it, let's roll with it, let's see what happens. And they didn't really test it out and try to balance it perfectly. But with Black Ops 3, I feel like Treyarch really looked into it. They really tried to nail it, and they didn't get it perfect, but they definitely did a better job than the previous games in terms of Advanced Warfare, because that game was just shit. I mean, plain and simply just shit. But anyways, another point that I would have to make is the customization. I mean, the weapon customization, the class customization, the pick 10 system, and things like that. It's very similar, if not identical, to Black Ops 2, which is good because there was no problems back then, and they kind of transferred it over to this game as well, and it works perfectly fine. However, they've added this new feature called Specialists, and you have a certain character, a certain type of character with certain abilities, and those abilities power up during the game. For example, there are these 2 daggers that you can jump and fly and smash into the ground and kill everyone in the close vicinity. There is a special weapon where you can get kind of like the revolver from Destiny. It's a one-shot kill, or there's a similar weapon where it fires electric bolts and, you know, electric shocks, and it's a one-shot kill and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Those things are quite nice. I mean, the whole dagger thing is a cheap tactic. People can get a lot of easy kills with that, so I'm not looking forward to it. However, in general, the specialist class or the specialist system, I'm all in favor of. Those specialist weapons and abilities, whether it be offensive or defensive, because there's different types, they power up during the game, and depending on what you do, you know, getting kills, capturing flags, getting tags and things like that, they charge up, and once they're fully charged, you can use them for a limited time. So in terms of balancing, I think it's perfect. Even though some of those specialist abilities, like I said, are a little bit cheap, but they work in general. They fit into the game, and it's kind of cool, it's kind of different, so I'm all in favor of it. Next, we have the loading speeds. Now, anyone who's played any game knows that the loading speeds of certain games like Red Orchestra, Battlefield, they take ages. Even Call of Duty sometimes took a while, especially with Ghosts. It took a very long time to load, especially on PC. It took forever. And I didn't actually buy Ghosts. I played it during a free weekend on the PC, and it was terrible. I mean, it was worse on PC than it was on console. However, with Black Ops 3, the games load instantly, and it's amazing because the maps aren't small. I mean, they're not tiny maps, and you have like a lot of people and a lot of things, you know, in terms of objects within this map, and the maps look visually stunning, like I said, and it loads in literally 3 seconds. It's amazing, and the game's performance is very smooth. You don't get these varying frame rates, you don't get these screen tears or jolts or lag issues or frame rate issues or anything like that. It's very smooth and it's very fast paced and it's very cool, and I feel as though when they did this they got it right, because it feels like old school Call of Duty again. Not exactly, but it's like the closest we're gonna get to it once the game has changed this much, and I feel as though they are trying to revert the game back to its original state from the heydays like Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops and things like that. And those were my favorite games, especially Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 4. That's where it's at, and it's good to see that these developers are actually listening for once and are trying to do the right thing. And going off a similar point about developers listening, finally the melee hit is not a one-hit insta-kill. So if you go around punching people or using the butt of your gun like you did back in Call of Duty 2, it's not a one-hit kill, it's a two-hit kill. So the first hit stuns the enemy and the second hit finishes him off, which is fantastic. And you can now equip the knife as a secondary. When you knife someone, you still get a kill with one hit. However, it's classed as a weapon, so it takes up a weapon slot, it goes into your secondary, and you can run around with that, but that means that you have to use 1 point from your pick 10 system. So there's a compromise, and you can see that there has actually been thought put into this process of how should we balance the knife, how should we balance the melee system, how should we make it so that the players don't complain anymore and they can enjoy this aspect. And personally, I think they've nailed it, so thank you to the developers for actually listening for once. Next, we have kill streaks and guns and gadgets and gizmos and all that stuff. All this superficial stuff, all this extra stuff, I think the balancing is pretty good, and there is a very good variety, especially when it comes to kill streaks and gadgets and, you know, equipment and stuff. Each one has its own purpose, its unique role. It fits into the game very, very well, and they're all varied and different and cool. So I think that they've nailed it on that aspect. And in terms of guns, there's a wide variety of weaponry, which is always nice to see. Going off a similar topic of guns and weaponry, there aren't any laser guns that I found. I mean, there might be one or two that maybe need recoil buffs or whatnot, but in terms of weaponry, there's actually recoil to the guns now. So when you fire it, you can't just hold down the trigger and hope for the best. I mean, if you're in close proximity and you're using hip fire and you're using the laser sight, sure, you're going to get a huge advantage. But if you're shooting from medium distance to long distance or ranges like that, you can't just hold the trigger down and hope for the best. There's actual recoil now, and they've really put emphasis on controlling the recoil and learning the weapon patterns and using it to your advantage, which means that they've brought skill back. Now, that was one of my biggest complaints in Ghosts and Advanced Warfare. It was just easy mode. I mean, every gun was a laser. I mean, in Advanced Warfare, there literally was a laser. You could just hold the trigger down and get a kill every time. There's absolutely zero recoil, and that removes all element of skill. However, with Black Ops 3, they've brought it back, and now there's a skill element to using the weapons and understanding it and mastering it, which is great to see, because I don't like it when a game gives people an advantage for no reason, you know? Someone doesn't deserve a kill, someone doesn't know how to use the weapon, but they get the kill on you anyway. Not because they're a better player, or they're more skilled, or they're more advanced, or they've put in more time to learn the weapons, but because the game allows them to do so, and it gives them the advantage for no reason. But now, if someone gets a kill with a weapon, I don't get angry or mad or upset, or I question it, because I look at the kill cam and I think, okay, that guy knows the recoil, or he got the jump on me, or this and that, and there's actual skill elements. Because most gamers, they don't get upset or they don't get angry about the fact that they got killed, because it's a video game, you're gonna die anyway. But it's the fact that if the game gives that kill to the player rather than the player earning it, that's what pisses people off, and that's what pissed me off back in the day. So it's good to see that the weapons have recoil and you have to actually learn it now. So it's kind of like Battlefield, and I'm all in favor of that. And last but not least, you can now go underwater and swim fully submerged underwater. You can hold your breath for a little while, or you can just swim across bodies of water, and you can now even fight underwater. So you can use your melee weapons, you know, your knives and your melee combat, or your guns even, which is a very nice addition to the game. And now for the bad things. There aren't that many bad things I encountered in the beta. Like I said, the game overall was actually pretty good, surprisingly. It was definitely not as bad as the previous Call of Duty games. It's a huge improvement on Advanced Warfare and a definite huge improvement from Ghosts. However, I still don't like the idea of exosuits. If they took that out of the game, like I said previously, I think it would be better. But adding verticality and things like that and improving the movement speed means that you can now control the gameplay and control the gunfights. Before, like I said, in Advanced Warfare, people were just whizzing around or flying flying around all over the place. So personally, I think exosuits don't deserve to be in the game. They don't have a place in the game. But if you want to keep it in the game, at least balance it correctly, because no one likes to see just some guy flying around and just dodging your bullets, because that's not what gunfights should be about. But anyways, the next thing is stuns and flashbangs and equipment. When you use it, the effects are so strong and they last for so long that if you're not running tac mask, you're at a huge disadvantage. It's like in previous versions of the game, you had to use toughness because the flinch made your character jump so much that if you didn't use that perk, you lost every gunfight. And it's going to be like that in this game. If you don't use tac mask, you will lose gunfights and you will die a hell of a lot. So I'm not really in favor of the game forcing you to use a certain perk or a weapon or a piece of equipment and forcing you to play a certain way. However, I feel like if you want to do well, you have to use tac mask in this game. The grenades, on the other hand, the explosives, the lethals, they're okay, they're balanced very well. However, the non-lethals like the stuns and flashbangs are way too powerful. Going off a similar point, another thing in the game that I find is really powerful, maybe even OP, is the shotguns. Now, sometimes they're inconsistent and they don't work very well, but I will put that down to lag and frame rate and things like that, so it's more hardware and software on your part rather than the game. However, in terms of the way they work, it's a guaranteed one-shot kill in any building. Sometimes even when you're in medium ranges outside and you hip fire the weapon without using laser sight or laser attachment, you still get an insta-kill, no matter where you hit the guy. And that to me sounds a little bit OP, so perhaps the shotguns need to be nerfed just a tad, but other than that, they operate pretty well. And another point, as I said previously, is the flinching. Now, the flinching is very inconsistent and is quite off-putting. Sometimes when you get shot, your character flinches like crazy, and sometimes it doesn't flinch at all. Now, maybe that depends on the caliber of weapon or the type of weapon that the enemy shoots you with, or where the enemy shoots you, or something like that. Perhaps there's some sort of technical element to it. I'm not aware of it, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. If it is, that's kind of cool. However, it's still very annoying to have in the game because you don't have toughness. If you had the toughness perk, this would be negated, or at the very least, the majority of the impact would be reduced. But now when you get shot first, even if the enemy got lucky, you're at a huge disadvantage immediately, and it's kind of not fair. It basically means the person who shoots first gets the kill rather than the person who is more skilled with the weapon. And technically it shouldn't be like that, but I can understand why people would say, well, if they got the advantage by getting a drop on you and shooting you first, they deserve the kill. So there's kind of like a counter argument to it. It just depends on your personal preference. I personally feel that the person who has more skill should get the kill, not the person who got lucky or the person who shot first. But in the game's current state, it doesn't allow you to do that. And finally, I have to go back to the point about the knife. Now, this is a very cheap tactic, and it was super annoying when people did it. I put it down to gameplay and kind of game mechanics, but it also has to do with the toxicity and the douchebaggery within the community itself. I'm sure you've all played against people like this, even in the beta. They're just equipping the knife as a secondary, and they're running around, dashing, sliding, and jumping in the air, and knifing you instantly. The problem is the knife in this game has inbuilt commando. They can just knife you and literally just fly to your position instantly. You don't have any time to react, you don't have any time to get some shots off and even get a kill. Sometimes you don't even get to damage the player, and they knife you and kill you instantly because they crouched and they dashed and they were immediately at your position, and the knife went in and you died instantly, which technically is a cheap kill and it's not very nice. So hopefully they do something about that, but that's just a personal take on the matter. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the good things and the bad things from the beta. Let me know if you played the beta yourself, if you enjoyed it, or if you did not enjoy it. Let me know in the comment section below. Tell me if you're going to buy the game, or if you've already pre-purchased it or pre-ordered it, and which platform you want to play on. Because personally, I played the open beta on PC, and it was one of the best PC games for Call of Duty I've played in a long time. So I think that they definitely made the game better. There's definitely improvements that have been made, but the game is still not perfect. I think that either the next game or the game after that, if they go down the same route, if they follow the same pattern of going back to old school Call of Duty, I feel like they can make this game great again. Currently, it's okay. It's definitely better than Advanced Warfare and Ghosts, like I said, but it's not perfect. So that's my take on the matter. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. I want to thank you all for listening, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.